Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshal Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shugarupa Prabodhatnya, Sarva Shastra Visharada, Edat Kadava Sangena, Datnyanam Vinashaya. Satchidananda Rupaya, Vishwotpattadihedave, Tabatra Vinashaya, Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namaha. I bow to Shri Shuga Brahmarshi, who has, through this book, he has given us wisdom to take away all our sorrows. I bow to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe. Hari Om Tat Sat. Very happy to meet all of you today, and thank God, hopefully both the electricity and this machine will work according to our desires. So let us start off. And we remember this thing he is talking about the Yadu, the great. He was a great grandfather of the Yadava dynasty. So Shri Krishna is telling Udhhava, they both belong to the Yadava clan. He says, our great ancestor Yadu, he met this avadhoot or a yogi, absolutely sky-clad yogi, was wandering around, and he said that the avadhoot told him about his own gurus, because Yadu asked him, what is it that makes you so free? You're so free and so easy, and you're so happy, and such a wonderful life you seem to have. So tell me, who is your guru? And Avadhoot said, I have not one guru, but 24 gurus. And last time we came up to the ocean. He mentioned all the gurus he had, the 5 elements, the sun, the moon, the earth, and so on. And eventually he came to the ocean, how the yogi should be like the ocean, never depending on sense objects. Now we become happy when the objective world gives us sense objects which we like, which we are happy with. We become unhappy when the objective world gives us sense objects which we don't like. So we are on the seesaw of this. We are like the puddles in the rain during the monsoon time, which wax and wane. Puddles are big. Suddenly in the garden you find a small pool because it's been raining. The moment the rain stops, it dries up. We are like that. That is to say, when these objects keep coming into us, we are happy, we are free, we love it. But when they stop, or when something happens which we don't like, then we become sad. So from the first, he's already said, the mind is its own place and can create a hell of heaven and a heaven of hell. So this is very important. So this is a mind that creates either the hell or heaven in this world of ours. That has been already said. So the ocean, yogi must be like the ocean, which never gets inflated because so many rivers flow into it, and never gets deflated because no river flows into it. It always maintains its level. Here there's a common parlance, young children say, keep cool, man. So similarly, the ocean keeps its cool, keeps its level. Whatever happens, the rivers come. The yogi is like that. Sense objects may come, sense objects may not come. The yogi will always be the same. That is the lesson he learned from the ocean. Now he comes. From today we are taking the moth. The moth is the next, a moth, So we are all, our senses betray us all the time. This moth is, gives up his life, actually speaking, due to his desire for some beautiful thing. So this is the moth. The moth is, what is it that gives this desire to the moth? The fire attracts the moth. So the sense of sight is what is said there. The sense of sight, we are attracted to so many things in the outside world. And we go for it, we throw ourselves into it. And it is possible that eventually these very things which are attractive, so attractive to us, may actually lead to our downfall, may even lead to our death if you pursue some things which are, not really meant for us. it may lead to many unfortunate circumstances. The moth, because of his desire for this light, this beautiful things, this beautiful light it sees, it just throws itself into that fire and perishes. Similarly, all of us have to be very wary. The yogi especially has to be very wary that he is not attracted by these fancy things of the world. So that's a moth. Next, he comes to the honey bee. Next is the honey bee, the 12th, I think, there's honey bee. Now, like the bee, he should only, the bee, it goes only from flower to flower. He takes a little bit of nectar from each flower. He doesn't drink out the entire nectar from one flower and, leaves it high and dry and bereft. Similarly, now we've already said the yogi must be like the python. Now, there are two types of yogis. One who follow the python's way, it's called the python's way, by which they simply sit or simply wander. They do not go and ask for food. They if somebody brings them some food, they have it. If nobody brings them something that day, they don't have it. And they don't complain either. Similarly, the python is like that. It is said that the python just lies in one. When other creatures are running around after food, the python lies down and waits for the food to come. So that is one type of yogi. Now there is another type, and the yogi is actually allowed to beg for food from 5 houses, it said. So that it doesn't tax the householder also. If a whole horde of yogis who are wandering around in Buddhist countries, monks are supposed to go around and begging for food. So they are allowed to beg only from 5 houses. If you read about the life of Shirdi's Baba, you will find that every day he went to 5 houses and begged for food. He would get dry things in his joli, and he would have a tin pot in which anything wet things would be given. So the yogi does not tax the householder. Similarly, likewise, the bee will only take a certain small amount of nectar from each flower. He does not denude the flower from its nectar totally. And another important thing which can be learned from that, the yogi is able to take out the essence of every scripture, of everything that he sees or everything that he hears. The asadoma sadgamaya, from the unreal lead us to real. So we are surrounded with unreal things. The yogi is able to take out the reality, see the reality in all these unreal things which we are surrounded with. So like the bee will only go after the nectar. It won't go after some sugar or something like that. So two lessons, and another lesson is going to be said. 2 lessons from the bee, that the bee will only go take a little bit from each flower, and also he knows to take only the essence from each flower. So that is the honey bee. Now, next he goes into the way that how the different sense organs betray us. Now, first he takes this organ of touch, actually. Touch. Now, sometimes, when we touch some type of cloth, very rough, we don't like it. We touch some silk or satin or velvet, we like it. So sense of touch is a very amazing thing. It can also, capture us. Now, many very rich people, they like to wear only silks and satins and something which are very so soft and nice to their body. But the yogis actually, who are not, of course, who like the avadhoot, wanders naked. But even otherwise, a yogi should only he should not really be bothered about whether the clothes he wears is soft to the touch or very nice to the touch. He can wear any rough, uncarded wool or rough type of khadi or anything like that. It doesn't matter to him. Now it's the elephant. He gives this thing of the elephant. Because the elephant is, usually caught by his sense of touch, apparently. Apparently, they have these, what you call, kheda operations. Kheda operations are when the elephant catcher, they put up a big kind of a pit into which the elephant is, the wild elephant is lured. And it is said that the wild elephant is lured into this by a she elephant who is tame, a tame she elephant. The she elephant goes out and touches or holds the trunk of that wild elephant, and slowly she will bring him here until he falls into the pit. So apparently this is how they catch elephants. So the sense of touch is the weak point in the elephant. And this is how a person can be lured, a yogi who is attached to that sense of touch. He may be very, very easily be fall into the because now again because that's why it is said that he gives the example of how a true yogi, one who has totally given up all household tasks or anything, such a yogi should never ever touch a woman. Women are the beautiful, wonderful creation of God, which entices the man. That is how nature makes it. Because nature has only one object, that is recreation of the species. So, in order to do that, you will find in all creatures, the male actually is more beautiful than the female. In all creatures, except the human being. In the human being, the female is more beautiful, more enticing. So, the male is, and it can easily, what that's usually not only by the sight, but also by the touch, apparently you can arouse emotions of lust in a man. So that is how nature made. It's neither the fault of the woman nor the fault of the man, but that is how nature is made. So the fact is the yogi, the man who has given up all household life and so on, such a yogi should never look at a woman, should never even, certainly not touch a woman, not even a wooden statue of a woman, he says. Because somehow that sense of touch, that when that yogi, he might, if he is not a fully developed yogi as such, it's very easy for such a person to be lured like the elephant, like the he elephant, the male elephant, by the touch of the she elephant. So again, even though striving yogi, he might have been striving for many days, but human nature is very difficult to control. And if he looks at a woman, he might be enticed. We see so many examples like that. Or especially if he touches, it is said that will be definitely like he'll be downfall, like the male elephant. Now he takes up another aspect of the bee. The bee gathers honey. The bee gathers honey from various places, Now, does the bee ever get to enjoy that honey? No. The bee is never ever enjoys even one bit of that honey. All he does, he takes it and puts it gives it to the queen bee, put it in this thing, and eventually, who will enjoy the honey? The honey gatherer who will come and take down the whole hive and destroy the bees, kill the bees, and take the honey for himself. Similarly, what does that mean? This means that the yogi should never hoard anything, never keep anything, because the moment he keeps, you never know. If you have riches or wealth or something which others people, all these things, surely one day or other you might. Now it is said in the Puranas, they say the wealth can be of three ways. Wealth can be used in three ways. One is the wealth can be used for your own enjoyment, for your family and your own self. Or the wealth can be given in charity. And thirdly, the wealth can be enjoyed by the robbers, thieves who come and take it away. So these are three ways in which the yogi should not come under any of these three, because he should not hoard wealth at all. It is not his business to hoard wealth. If he does that, definitely some problem or other will rise. So that is a lesson he learned from the honey gatherer. The poor little bee collects all the honey from every flower. The whole day long it is busy, busy, busy. You know how busy is a bee, we say. So, and then what happens? He does not enjoy even one drop of that honey. So that is the thing of hoarding, which he is trying to caution the yogi against. Now, another thing, he says the sense of hearing. Now, he already talks about sense of touch. It can lead you to your death, actually speaking, if you, like the elephant, and that's why he advises never to touch a woman, never to touch even a wooden figure of a woman. Now, he comes to the deer. The deer has a sensitive sense of hearing itself. So it's a sense of hearing which he talks about now. Never ever listen to sensuous music is what he says. Sensuous, and the tari, this thing, it arouses all the negative passions in you. Somehow or other, music has an ability to arouse. Even when you go to war in olden days, they used band and trumpets and congs and all that. All this was in order to get an upsurge of energy in the warriors. Soldiers had to be given some energy. So this type of rousing music would rouse them. Similarly, music has an ability to do many things to the mind. Beautiful, soothing music and lovely, this soothes you. But very passionate, lustful sort of music, which arouses the worst type of emotions in us. And we will fall into that, like the deer. Now, the deer is supposed to be lured by the hunter. The hunter apparently imitates the sound of a female deer. I don't know what sort of sound the female deer makes, but this is how the male deer is attracted. The hunter makes a call of the female deer, and the deer comes closer and closer and falls in the trap that the hunter has made for him. So the yogi especially, this is not meant for bhajans and all sorts of, choral music which will make us elevate us into higher level. This is meant only for that type of music which is very harsh and hard on the ears and on the senses, and some sort of music which even give us very low type of feelings and so on. This is the type of you have to avoid. Now, in this respect, he gives the example of a wonderful rishi called Rishyashringi. Rishyashringi was actually born of a deer, apparently. He was a son of the great sage Mrigi. And the father and son lived in the forest in their own ashram, and the boy was brought up absolutely innocent. He had never seen a woman in his life before. He had never mingled with any other human being. He led an absolutely pure and happy life in that forest, doing yajnas and yagas, listening to mantras and chantings and doing all his sadhana. So he's an extremely pure boy. At that time, the great sage, the great king Dasharatha in Ayodhya, he had no sons. So he had asked his Kula Guru, Vasishta, to do a yaga, a yajna called the Putra Kameshi Yaga, by which he could get sons, progeny. So Vasishta told him, I can do it for you, but the only person who can really get a yaga, the yaga has to be truly successful. You will have to get someone who is very, very pure and has no sort of, never been he has never been objected to any sort of external and outward and negative things. And he said the only person such a person is the Rishyashringa who lives in the forest. So what they did was they sent some ladies in a boat along a river which passed the ashram, and these said that these ladies played music and played sang songs, all of which suddenly roused Rishishringi, because you remember it was he was also from a deer, so the deer is also especially fond of music. So he slowly crept forward and he saw all these women who were so beautiful. He had never seen anything like this in his life before. And every day they would come and entice him, and eventually they got him to climb into the boat, and they took the boat off, and he was the one who conducted the yaga for this thing. So that is, the yogi should never come under the sway of sensuous music, which will, we all know what this type of music is. So it's much better to avoid such music, because we never know. Even the greatest yogi, we may never know when we can fall. So it's better to avoid such type of music. So that is Jaya. The next, his next guru was the fish. In the fish, this is that sense of taste. This is a sense of taste that is being given. Example of the fish is given. Now the fish, when the bait is actually, when the angler puts a hook inside the bait, and because of his sense of taste, he is so anxious to eat that bait, which is a nice, maybe some very interesting thing which he likes, a worm, usually a worm or something. Now the fish goes towards that and grabs the worm, and the hook gets caught in his mouth, and he is drawn up by the angler, and he is killed. So the sense of taste actually is a strange thing. The sense of taste is the most powerful sense in our human thing. Of all the five senses, the sense of taste is the most powerful. It is the first to come at birth. It is the last to go at death. And when the baby is a baby, when it's born, it may not see well, it may not hear things, it may not smell much, but the moment it is kept to its mother's breast, it will clamp onto the breast and drink with all gusto, because that sense of taste is very important for him at that time, because that is what nourishes him. So it is the first sense to appear in the human being. Similarly, it is said that on the deathbed, when all other senses have gone, the person can't see anything, his eyes are closed, he can't hear. Even when we chant, sometimes he doesn't hear. He can't smell. But it is said, if you put a drop of honey on his tongue, this tongue will slowly, it will do. So it is the first sense to come in the beginning and at birth, and the last to go at death. So it's a very, very, very powerful, most powerful of all the senses. We can conquer most of the other senses, but only a yogi, a true yogi, who can conquer the sense of taste. This is obvious from these ashrams and monasteries, Christian monasteries and Hindu ashram. You will find that these monks have given up everything. All other objects which the world holds here, all the other things they have given up. But they still cling on to the sense of taste. Most of these ashrams and monasteries are very, very good kitchens. They make very delicious food. So that is one thing which is a very difficult thing for the yogi, for a man to give up, for any person to give up. So the yogis advise that you should never, like the fish. He's learned this lesson from the fish. Food is something which attracts everybody. And if you fall a prey to that food, if you are longing only become a foodie, what you call it, a glutton, then it will be the end. Because overeating, as any doctor will tell you, leads to 90% of and especially eating bad food, leads to 9% of diseases and eventually death. So, like the lessons we learn from the fish, that we should be very discriminate in our food. We should, of course, nobody's asked to starve or fast. You can't do that. A certain amount of food is given to the body by which it can nurture itself. That food because Food is essential for the body naturally. So that food, that much of food the yogi can eat without any problem, so that he will nurture his body, but neither more nor less. And again, he should not hanker about after tasty food. All of us, if we like the food, we like it. If we don't like it, we don't eat it. So we are all slaves to our sense of taste. Even if we eat little, we like tasty food. So the yogi should try and make his sense of taste totally indiscriminate. Like many of our great sages. For instance, my guru's guru, Kula Guru, Chandrasekhara Mauli. So he is said, he was eat very sparingly, and he would eat the most bitter things with greatest of delight. He had absolutely no problem with any this thing. Similarly, even Sai Baba, it is said, Shirdi Sai Baba, I told you he collected from 5 houses, and then he'd come back to his own little Dwarkamai. He will put pieces, all the bread he got, he would put in a bowl. Then he would, on top of that, he would pour all the other things, milk or kheer, or buttermilk, whatever it was. If he had collected all the liquids in one pot, you remember, all mixed up. That he will put on top, and he will take 5-6 handfuls from that. He'll mix it all up. So absolute control of the sense of taste. So the yogi, though he is not asked to fast, he is asked to take enough, only enough to keep his body and mind and intellect at a healthy pace, but without being attached to a sense of taste, because sense of taste is something, the gluttons and people who are, huge eaters, 100% they'll all suffer from some sort of ill health, and eventually that will be the end of this thing also. This is very important, okay? That is a fish, that's a sense of taste. In fact, he's next we come to the very, very beautiful, very interesting story about the courtesan called Pingala, who was staying in the great city of Videha. Videha was noted for its great kings. Videha means not attached to the body. Videha. In fact, the great kings of Videha were supposed to be great sages, like Janaka, for instance. Sita's father Janaka and all the others were supposed to be great sages, because though even they were what is known as Raja Rishis, because even though they were kings, they were actually Rishis, because even though they lived in such comfort, they were not attached to that. Videha, they were not attached to that. They lived in such comfort because they were born to that, and that was their duty, and that is where they had been placed by their own circumstances that placed them in such a high spot. But they were totally detached from everything which they lived in. So that is Videha. Now, in this wonderful city of Videha, there lived a beautiful courtesan called Pingala. Now, Pingala was so beautiful, and she had so many admirers, so many lovers actually. All the great, the councillors and the members of parliament and the rich men of that city, they all used to visit her in the night. So she was very wealthy also. She was not only a wealthy woman, very beautiful woman. And thus she spent, many years of her life was spent like that. So one day, this yogi happened to be passing. He's like the wind. He passes wherever he goes. Wherever his legs take him, he goes. And in that way, he passed through the great city of Videha. And he was struck by this woman standing at her gate. So he said, he wanted to watch. He stood there watching her. And it is said this woman waited there when many chariots would come, many rich men would come, but she would refuse them all, thinking, maybe I'll get someone richer than this. Maybe the next one will be even richer than this. So she waited and waited the whole evening. Now these courtesans, they make up and beautiful clothes, and they wait only the evenings. So from 6 o'clock onwards, she was waiting at the gate. 6 o'clock up to, it was 12 midnight, and so far she had not got anyone whom she really wanted to have as a lover for that night. Not because of anything else. She had only one criterion. How rich is he? How much will he give me? That's all she thought of. So she thought whenever each one came, she thought, oh, well, the next one will be more rich, and I will wait for the next one, and maybe that. And that somehow time passed without her knowing. And it was 12 midnight when she suddenly realized. Sudden realization came to her. And the yogi was watching all this. And suddenly the thought came to her. Oh my God, she said, what am I doing here? What a wretch, what a miserable creature I am. I live in this wonderful, amazing city of Videha, where the king himself is not totally unattached to his body. And here I live in this wonderful town, and I'm only attached to the bodies of people. Nothing else attracts me except these bodies of people. What am I waiting for a lover like this? What is this body? Which is nothing but a like a house with rafters and so on and so forth. So it's filled with all sorts of poisonous things, unhealthy as well as unclean things. So why am I wasting my life when actually speaking, I have my own lover. My lover is nobody. The only sole lover for every human being is that Atman, that Paramatman himself, which lives within us. So many people ask me, how do I find out my, the most partner, what is it? Some partner or something they are. So I said, I always tell them, the only life partner, only soulmate. That's right, soulmate. That's a particular word used by the young people of today. How do I find my soulmate? So I always tell them, the only fitting soulmate for the Jivatma is the Paramatma. Nothing else will satisfy the Jivatma until and unless it becomes the lover. Her lover is only that Paramatma. When she gets that lover, the Paramatma, then all her desires will be totally fulfilled. That is the story of Pingala. By some, she says to herself, my God, I have lived here what a terrible, despicable life I have led all this time. I have forgotten that paramour, that lover which is inside me, and have gone running about after these men who can never give me anything, never get happiness. Even if some happiness, some fleeting happiness, I can never get permanent happiness by any of these people. So he says, there must be something I have done in my previous life that at least now at this moment, I have understood this. He says, only when we get disgust for this extraordinary and life, the objective life which we live, only when we get disgust for it will we get dispassion also. As long as we think that this life is the greatest, today I go to a show here, tomorrow I go for an adventure there, today another time I go for a pilgrimage, another time I'll go for a wedding. So as long as we are enticed by all these things in this world, which is like a magic show, kept for us to enjoy, and if we think that this is the only thing, enjoyment in life, and by going into this only, so only when we get a disgust for that of life, like Pingala did, suddenly for her, by God's grace, or enhanced by her karma of her previous birth, she suddenly got a disgust for this. And only then did she get dispassion. Yes, only then she got it. Disgust leads to dispassion. And she went back to her room, took out all her fineries, and started praying to God and telling, I have wasted the best part of my life, O Lord, in seeking bodies which are ephemeral, which are temporal, which will fall to dust one day. When I've forgotten my eternal consort who is always with me. Please forgive me. Please accept me. Please let me come back into your arms once again, oh divine beloved, she says. And one of the words which he said is quoted by the yogi. Ashahi paramam dukkham, nirasha paramam sugam. Ashahi paramam dukkham. It is attachment and desire. Desire always leads to paramam dukkham, greatest sorrow. Nirasha paramam sugam. That means desirelessness. Like the yogi who is totally desireless, he doesn't desire anything. Things may come to him or may not come to him. He can accept them, no problem. But if he accepts them, it is only to give it out again. Like the cloud giving out the rain back to the sea from which he took up the water. That's he's already said before. So similarly, that the only person who is really, totally is a person who is not attached like that to anything which the objective world can give us. So, Ashahi paramam dukkham, nirasha paramam sukham is what? The song of Pingala which he said. So, the yogi, he said he learns lessons from so many people, so many creatures, so much of the world, everything he sees in the world, even a courtesan, even a harlot. He gains a lesson that there are lessons to be learned everywhere in the world if you only have the eyes to see it. In the beginning itself, the question was asked by Udhhava, how can we are so totally immersed in this Maya and we don't really have a proper guru. How can we get ourselves out of this? Many people ask me how to find a guru. So the answer to that is this. The answer Krishna gives is that the avadhoot has not one guru but 24 gurus, and all of them are simple things which we see outside in the world. He didn't have to go a long way to chase after a guru. All the things in life which he saw, he found that is to be a special guru. So this is the lesson he learned from the Bengala, the courtesan. And again he wondered. He says, actually speaking, only the yogi and the child, the small child, can be totally free of desire and passion. Only this, because the child, the yogi just wanders over. He's not dependent on anything. He knows that all his needs will be looked after by that Prabhu, by that Lord. So, what Krishna says to Arjuna, Anyachintayanto mam yejana pajupasade tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam mahamyam. I will take care of all the needs, physical and material and spiritual, of a person who wanders over thinking only of me. This is the promise. This promise, obviously the yogi also remembers that, and he says only that. And the child also is exactly like, only these two can be totally happy. Totally happy without any problems coming to him. The child also is totally happy when they're very small. When they get bigger, it's different. And they have 100 desires. But when they're very small, they're so comfortable in the fact that their mother is taking care of them. They know they will be taken care of. They don't have to work. They can play. They can wander around. They don't have to work for this thing. The mother will support them, will give them to eat and so on. So the carefree life. Have you seen children playing on the seashore? They will make beautiful castles and so on. And when the next wave comes, the castle will be washed away. The child doesn't sit and grieve over it. It will clap his hands and say, oh, look at that, how the waves came and took it away. And he'll build another castle. Similarly, because they have no attachments actually to anything. Of course, they have attachment to the mother, that's another thing. But however, the fact is that only the yogi and the child can actually be totally free of all attachments and be certain that he will be looked after. His needs will be taken care of by someone or something. So that is the thing he says. And the Pingala also realizes that she doesn't have to sell her body in order to make money to look after herself. If she totally surrenders to that Lord of the universe, who's ever there to ready to take care of every human being. As I said, God has given us enough for our needs, to meet our needs. but not to meet our greed. That is the whole point. He does not cater to our greed, but to our needs. And if that is all that you need, all of your needs are met with. But our greed, the human being has greed for more and more and more and more. And that is why we get scattered about here and there. So that is a Pingala. Next, he's talking about this thing of possessions. Possessions are what bind us, really speaking. We are bound by our houses, by our things we possess. And even if we are not in that place, even if we are not, we are going, so our thought is always there. I hope that house being looked after by that chowkidar. I don't know what he, then also, I don't know whether I should have kept away my gold ornaments in the bank instead of leaving it in the safe in the house. Once you have any possession which is eyed by some other person, which will be precious to some other person. If we possess something which is really precious to another person, we are bound. We will not be able to live a happy life. The yogi should not have these not be bound by these by his possessions. He should, if he has something which is envy, an object of envy by somebody, he should give it away. This is the lesson he learned from the osprey, a kurara bird, osprey. It's like a vulture. It is a bird of prey. And once this osprey, the yogi is usually walking around and watched the antics of this osprey. He suddenly saw the osprey coming up in the air, just carrying a big chunk of meat. He had found it from some butcher shop maybe. He had grabbed it and taken it off. The moment he came up, 100 other birds saw him and they were all flying towards him to try and grab that bit of meat from him. The osprey flew as fast and hard as he could. But slowly these birds were catching up on him. So what did he do in his own little brain? He realized that the birds are not running after me. They're running after the object in my hands. They're running after this tasty bit of flesh in my hand. So he very wisely let go of the meat. He let go of that meat and he was a free bird. He could just fly away because all the other birds were running after that meat. So similarly, the yogi got a wonderful lesson from this, that we should never hoard or never keep anything which is of extreme value. The yogi should never have recourse to anything of extreme value, because whatever that is, there's sure to be others who are eyeing it with envy, and eventually that the person may even be killed by another person who wants that bit of thing. There's a beautiful story about a yogi who was sitting in the near a river. He was sitting near a river, and his a disciple who wanted to be his disciple, he came. When you want to meet a guru, you're supposed to bring something. So this boy wanted him to be his guru. So he brought two very rare and beautiful big real pearls, two big real pearls. And he placed it reverently at the feet of the guru and said, "Oh Guru, please accept me as your this thing. These are very good pearls. I mean, they are real pearls and very, very difficult to get such big pearls which are real." So the Guru said, "Oh yes, very nice." And he nodded his head and accepted. And he kept it there. And suddenly one rolled off and fell into the river. This poor disciple was crazy with grief. He ran up and down. He jumped into the river. He tried to find it. And he, totally exhausted, he came up again and said, "I don't know. I've searched everywhere. I don't know where this pearl has gone." So the Guru, Master, he said, "Did you see it anywhere?" So the Guru said, "Yes, I think it was there," he said. And he took the second pearl and threw it into the river and said, there, I think it's there." So that is the nature of the true yogi, who has no hankering after these possessions. Because if you keep any possession which is envied by someone else, it will bring you to ruin. So it means nothing to the yogi. So that is a lesson, very important lesson that he learned from the osprey or the kurara bird. Next very interesting lesson was because obviously this yogi, because Yadu was he liked him, or because of Yadu's demeanor, and he was very, very humble. He didn't pretend he was a great king and he could ask him, and he humbly sat by his side and listened to him as he was. I don't know whether they sat together, or maybe I think more probable that Yadu walked beside the yogi as he was walking along the beach or in the forest. And he said, he said the avadhoot said, well, I will tell you another story. As I was walking, sometimes I walk through forests, sometimes I walk along the beach, sometimes I go to the towns, as you saw, I went through the town of Videha. Now another time when I was going through a village, I suddenly was struck by some people who were going into a small ordinary house, very poor, obviously a poor house. Now these people had come there with a proposal for the young girl, the girl of the house. And they went in, and this poor girl was alone. Nobody was there in the house. She was totally alone. So then she didn't know what to do. She had to, because it was a proposal for her, so she had to at least give them some food or something, because that is the usual thing. Even if it's not a proposal, you should give. So especially in this case, she made them all sit down in this thing, and she herself went to the kitchen, and she started pounding some grain in order to cook the meal. Now, as she was pounding, there was nobody else, they had no servants, they were very poor. As she started pounding, they wore conch bracelets bangles in those days. Glass bangles were not yet come, golden, and certainly she didn't have golden bangles because they were so poor. She had only these conch bangles, and they made a sound. She had lots of them on either hand. So they made a sound, and then she thought to herself, oh my God, if these people hear this sound, it was only a hut and the partition was so small between the kitchen and the sitting room that they could hear. So they said, if they hear that, they will know that we are very poor, and that we have, I can't even afford, my parents can't even afford to give me gold bangles. So then maybe they will go away. So she said, one by one she took off her bangles. Even as she took off one by one, left only two on either hand. But even when two were there, some noise was going on. Cluck, 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 cluck. The typical noise of conch bangles, meeting each other. So then eventually she took out even that one bangle, so that there was only one bangle on either hand. And then there was no more noise, nothing. And the visitors couldn't hear anything either. So then from this, the yogi learned a very important lesson. He learned that a yogi, as long as we should not live in a house with lots of people, number one. Or even if you're traveling or going on your own, alone, it's better for the yogi to travel alone. Even, of course, if you're in a big house with lots of people, or if you're traveling in a crowd, even with other yogis, there's bound to be some argument, some talk, something or other which will go on, which would deflect the yogi's mind from his attention or his concentration on that Atman, because that is what he's supposed to be thinking of all the time. He should not be discussing things and get his mind deflected from that. He should be single-pointed in his journey of his life. So then even if two people are there, he said, two people, we're traveling together, even two people, there's bound to be some sort of talk and some sort of interest in something other than that, and that the divine. So the yogi who is single-pointed, who wants to attain liberation in this life, he should walk alone. He should travel alone, because he must realize that he is never alone. his one and only soul traveling companion is the Lord of the universe himself. So really speaking, he's never alone. This is a example to all of us. Even if you're old and if you're this thing, if people say, oh, how can you travel alone at this age? And I always say, I'm never alone. I'm always, Krishna is always with me. So that full understanding that Lord which you worship will never leave you alone. He'll always be there to guide you. That gives a freedom which no other companion in the world can give. That is a great, wonderful feeling that we all have when we are going forward, going. So the yogi, he says, should always travel alone. This was the salutary bit of advice which he got from this maiden to see whom some people had brought a groom for her, and so she very wisely took off all her bangles, and then she could do without any sound at all. So the yogi should always travel alone is the idea he got from this. How are we off for time? Oh, we have a few more minutes, I think. No? Yeah, 52 minutes. 11:52. So then we'll take up the next one. The next one is the arrowsmith. In olden days, the arrows used to be, the great warriors would have hundreds, thousands of arrows, many in their quiver, many down in the chariot. So these arrows have to be meticulously made by these ironmongerer. Iron was very scarce in those days. It was a luxury, iron. So they would, any piece of iron anyone got, they would keep it. And the maker of the arrows, he would sit there, polish it so that it'll be a real, like a pointed, very well, and both sides would be exactly the same. Remember, they had no lathes and many types of instruments. It's all done by hand, everything. So this point of the arrow had to be polished and ground and done this. And one day this yogi was again walking along in a village, and he passed the hut of an arrowsmith. He stood there for some time watching this arrowsmith. He was quite fascinated by him because this man did not even look up at him. He kept on going on with his totally single pointed on his thing. At that time, the big procession came. The king of the land came with a band and music and horses and shouting and hail, hail to the king, and huge procession passed in front of the arrowsmith. Now, the yogi was not interested in watching the procession, but he watched the arrowsmith. What is his reaction? And he found to his amazement, the arrowsmith did not even notice what is happening. He did not look up from his work he was doing to watch the people going by. That was an amazing thing he saw. He thought to himself, my word, I can learn so much. Any yogi can learn so much from this arrowsmith. He has single-pointed concentration on his work. Similarly, the yogi should have single-pointed concentration on the Lord of his heart. That Atman, that self of all, that self is within him, which he is trying to gain union with this very life itself. He should be single-pointedly thinking of that alone. He should not, that is why he has already said, he should not be wandering with a companion. The moment you have a companion, you will start to talk about trifling things which are of no use to you. Your time will be wasted in thinking of some other thing. Or if you get caught up in the conversation of some other travelers in a train or something. Or if you get caught up in some strains of sensuous music or something. Or if somebody offers you a nice tasty bit of rubbery or some laddu or something, and you stand there with your attention fixed on this laddu. For that moment, you're finished. Your attention wavers from that. Similarly, that the yogi should always have single-pointed attention to that Lord himself, only to that Paramatma, which is ever in him, and which is ever his soul, one and only companion for the whole of our life. Though we may not know it, we may not recognize. Even if we don't recognize, he will always be with us. So that is the yogi should have this single pointed concentration of the arrowsmith, who was not deterred from his job, even with the great noise of the galata which was going on outside his house. So this is a great thing which he learned from the arrowsmith. How are we off for time? Maybe we can just take one more. Here we can take the snake. He has already talked about a python. Now he talks about the snake. Now the snake, it is said, never has a house of it. He never makes a hole for himself. He always lives in the hole made by a rat or mole or rabbit or something like that. Similarly, he said the yogi should never have a permanent residence, make a permanent wonderful ashram for himself, These are different types of yogis. Remember, some yogis do have ashrams. That is also good. Nothing. But he's talking about this avadhoot, because the avadhoot does not even wear clothes, because even the clothes are an encumbrance. Even clothes are something which cling to him. And he must find another cloth. You must clean this and get another cloth. And he must wash it. So even that much of, attachment, he does not have to anything. That's a very, very amazing type of yogis there. There used to be many like them in olden days here. In fact, there were many like that. But nowadays I see, getting less and less, I think. And even those we see sometimes in the Kumbh Mela and all that, I don't know whether they're really true avadhoots or what, they are what type. They are in the Naga Babas who are totally naked, and you're supposed to be totally. India is an amazing place that way. Everything, you find all types of people and many types of ways and methods by which we can reach that infinite divine supreme being, which is the goal of all human life. So this is the snake. The snake never has a house. Once you have a house and you're living in a house or an ashram or a mansion or whatever, you're bound. We see many examples actually of great saints and all. So they catch hold of them and put them in a there was a wonderful saint in Rishikesh. He used to just wander along the Ganga, and he had a little cave when it was raining, and then he would live in that cave. Many people came and found out that he was such a great saint. He never asked for anything, but they put him in an ashram. They built an ashram. But luckily for him, he refused to be confined to that. He would only live in his cave and never accepted any gift. Always told, if anyone came with a gift for him, he said, buy fodder for the cows. The cows used to come and see him. So that is a true, very seldom you meet people like that. So this is a true yogi. And now I think we'll stop. We have a few more, which we will take next week on Saturday at the same time. And if, as I told you, anyone wants any questions on this also, tomorrow we will be having a Q&A at 11 to 12, same time. So if you have any questions on this, please do ask. There's no problem in it. We can, just because we are taking a question period, the very next day, all of you can happily ask any question you want the very next day before you forget it. Okay? So I think we'll end up the session with this. With a peace prayer. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Vadyani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhave Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Hari Om.